Have you ever pondered the origins of religious beliefs and practices? How did it all begin? Let's embark on a journey through time to the dawn of religion, to the earliest flickers of spiritual belief kindling in the human heart. The concept of religion, as we know it today, has deep roots in human history. It's a fascinating tale that takes us back to the prehistoric era, where we find the first signs of religious practice. As early as the Paleolithic period, our ancestors were demonstrating a sense of the spiritual. They practiced what we now call animism, a belief system centered around the idea that all things, animate and inanimate, possess a spirit or soul. Imagine a world where every rock, every tree, every gust of wind held a spiritual essence. Then came the concept of totemism, where early societies revered certain animals or natural objects, considering them sacred or spiritually significant. These totems were believed to offer protection and guidance, becoming an integral part of their communities. Our journey then takes us to the ancient civilizations of Egypt, Greece, and Rome. Here, we witness the birth of polytheistic religions, where multiple gods and goddesses ruled over different domains of life. The ancient Egyptians, for instance, worshipped a pantheon of deities, each governing an aspect of life or death. The Greeks and Romans, too, followed a similar path, their gods personifying natural phenomena, virtues, and vices. These gods and goddesses were not just divine beings, but also characters in intricate mythologies, their stories intertwined in a complex tapestry of divine dramas, heroic quests, and moral lessons. Religion, in these times, was more than just a belief system. It was a way of interpreting the world, a lens through which the mysteries of existence could be understood. It offered comfort, guidance, and a sense of community, shaping societies and cultures in profound ways. And as we moved forward in our historical journey, a new phase dawned. Humans evolved, and with them, their understanding of the divine took a significant turn. This evolution led to the birth of monotheistic religions, where the worship was directed towards a single, all-encompassing deity. As humans evolved, so did our understanding of the divine, leading to the birth of monotheistic religions. How did humanity transition from worshipping multiple gods to just one? Let's dive into the intriguing world of monotheistic religions to find out. The first monotheistic religion we encounter is Atonism. Established in ancient Egypt under Pharaoh Akhenaten, this religion was revolutionary for its time, as it abandoned traditional Egyptian polytheism in favor of worshipping a single solar deity, Aten. Next, we have Zoroastrianism. Emerging in ancient Persia, it posited a single god, Ahura Mazda, as the creator of all things, starkly contrasting with the polytheistic religions of neighboring cultures. Then, there's Judaism, born in the Middle East. Judaism introduced the concept of a single, all-powerful God who not only created the universe, but also maintained a personal relationship with his followers. Each of these religions, in their unique ways, reshaped societal norms, leading to new moral codes, legal systems, and cultural practices. Monotheistic religions had a profound impact, yet they were not the only influential religious movements of their time. While monotheism was taking root in the West, what was happening in the East? As our story unfolds, we find ourselves in an entirely different spiritual landscape, one marked by a rich tapestry of diverse philosophies, rituals, and beliefs. Eastern religions, including Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism, blossomed in this part of the world. Let's take a moment to delve into these spiritual traditions, their foundational principles, important leaders, and the profound influence they exerted on Eastern societies. Hinduism, one of the world's oldest religions, arose from the spiritual practices of the ancient Indus Valley civilization. Rooted in a complex system of beliefs, it is a faith that embraces a multitude of gods, yet acknowledges a single divine reality. Some of its influential figures include the sage Vyasa, who is traditionally regarded as the compiler of the Indian epics, and Adi Shankara, who consolidated the doctrine of Advaita Vedanta. In contrast, Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, in the 6th century BC, proposes a path of spiritual development leading to insight into the true nature of reality. It champions the middle way, a path of moderation away from the extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. Then we have Taoism, a philosophical tradition originating from ancient China. Lao Tzu, the legendary author of the Tao Te Ching, is considered the founder of this spiritual path. Taoism emphasizes living in harmony with the Tao, the natural, spontaneous, eternal way of the universe. These Eastern religions, though distinct in their teachings, share a common thread. They all advocate for personal transformation and inner peace. The influence of these religions on Eastern societies is profound, shaping their art, culture, and philosophy, and providing a spiritual compass for countless lives. The East and West saw the birth of diverse religious ideologies, setting the stage for centuries of spiritual exploration, conflict, and convergence. As we move forward in our journey, we'll see how these ideologies evolved, clashed, and sometimes intertwined, shaping the world as we know it today. How did religions shape the world during the Middle Ages? The Middle Ages, a period spanning roughly from the 5th to the 15th centuries, was a time of significant religious influence and conflict. The dominant faiths of the time, Christianity and Islam, played pivotal roles in shaping societies, politics, and cultures across Europe, the Middle East, and beyond. One of the most dramatic illustrations of religious conflict during this period were the Crusades, a series of holy wars fought primarily between Christians and Muslims. The Crusades were ignited by a desire to control the Holy Land, a region deemed sacred by both faiths. These brutal campaigns, spanning nearly 2 centuries, not only underscored the deep-seated religious tensions, but also led to an exchange of ideas and cultures that still resonate today. At the same time, Islam was rapidly spreading across vast territories. From the Arabian Peninsula, it extended its reach into Africa, Europe, and Asia, bringing not just a new faith, but also advancements in science, philosophy, and the arts. This was a time of great Islamic scholars like Avicenna and Averroes, whose works greatly influenced the Western world. In the Christian world, a significant divide was brewing. The Great Schism of 1054 split Christianity into 2 major branches, the Roman Catholic Church in the West and the Eastern Orthodox Church in the East. This divide, rooted in theological disagreements, cultural differences, and political conflicts, still exists today, with each branch maintaining its distinct traditions and beliefs. Throughout this period, religions often borrowed and adapted ideas from each other. Christian scholars, for instance, translated and studied Islamic texts on philosophy and science, incorporating these ideas into their own intellectual tradition. Despite the conflicts and tensions, religion also served as a source of solace and unity for many. It provided a moral compass and a sense of community, offering hope during times of hardship and uncertainty. The Middle Ages were a tumultuous time, with religion often at the center of conflict, but also a source of solace and unity. How have religions evolved in the modern era, and what might the future hold? In the modern era, we've seen an interesting dichotomy in the evolution of religions. On one hand, there's been the rise of new religious movements, often blending elements from different faith traditions. These movements, whether it's the New Age spirituality or the fusion of Eastern and Western philosophies, have brought fresh perspectives and interpretations to the religious landscape. On the other hand, there's been a noticeable trend of secularization in various societies. As scientific understanding expands and as human rights and individual freedoms are increasingly emphasized, many people are choosing to distance themselves from traditional religious structures. Yet, even within this secularization, there's often a continued search for spiritual fulfillment and meaning, pointing to the enduring human need for metaphysical exploration. Looking ahead, it's challenging yet intriguing to speculate about the future of religions. One significant trend is the increasing interfaith dialogue. As our world becomes more interconnected, there's a growing recognition of the shared values and common goals among different religions. This cross-pollination of ideas can lead to a richer, more inclusive understanding of spirituality. The impact of technology on religion is another trend to watch. From virtual reality church services to AI-powered spiritual advisors, technology is reshaping how we practice and understand religion. While there are valid concerns about the authenticity and depth of these tech-driven spiritual experiences, they also offer new ways to connect, learn, and explore religious ideas. So, as we stand at this crossroads of tradition and innovation, what does the future hold for religions? It's hard to say definitively, but one thing seems certain: religion, in one form or another, will continue to be a part of human experience. It will continue to evolve, reflecting our ever-changing understanding of the divine and our place in the universe. As we journey into the future, we carry with us the wisdom of the past, the challenges of the present, and the promise of new insights yet to be discovered. Religion, an integral part of human history, continues to evolve, reflecting our ever-changing understanding of the divine and our place in the universe. So, where does this journey through the history of religions leave us? From the dawn of time, religions have shaped the course of human history, starting with the ancient practices, moving to the emergence of monotheism and the rise of Eastern beliefs. These systems of faith, each unique and rich in their own right, have impacted our societies, cultures, and individual lives in countless ways. The Middle Ages saw a surge of religious conflicts, demonstrating the power and influence these beliefs held over societies, nations, and even continents. And in more modern times, we've seen the birth of new faiths and the evolution of established ones, reflecting our ever-changing understanding of the world and our place in it. Religions, old and new, continue to shape our world, providing a platform for questions, debates, and the quest for meaning. As we continue to explore and understand our world, the story of religion remains a fascinating testament to humanity's ceaseless quest for meaning and connection.